So here is our Arcade1Up control panel, and we want to make 3 modifications. Number 1, we're going to put a little mini OLED display here that is going to show the game information and some other data about the game. And we also want to put a little scrolling LED panel right here. It's going to have a little bracket cover over it like this. And lastly, we want to install our spinner here. And I was thinking about putting a spinner here, but then, if you're actually using the game, it might be in the way. So I think over here is better because we're not going to use this speaker. So those are the 3 things we're going to do. So first thing we need to do is take off the bottom. I've actually already undone the screws here. So this comes off like so. And then let's flip it back over. And we need to take off these guys. And we can take off this acrylic panel. This scratch is really easy, so I'd set it somewhere that it's not going to scratch. So let's start, and let's first take out all these buttons because we're going to replace them. So you could actually cut these, but in case you want to reuse them, I'm just going to unplug them. Alright, so those are all the buttons, and we're going to reuse these switches. So I'm going to leave those for now as is. So now 2 more things we got to do. Number 1 is we need to drill some holes for our LED display. So I'm just going to center this guy and blue tape it down. Okay, and then the other one is a small OLED display. Let's take a look at it real quick. So it's going to go like right here. And so we got a little mounting template for it, which you can, sorry, it's kind of hard to see, this is see-through, but you can laser cut this, design files, and it's just going to sit in like so. Okay. So now we just need to drill holes here and holes there. And then also we got to drill cutouts for this guy, as well as on our matrix, these holes here as well. So we'll do those next. So now we can get to our pins. We are good to go. Alright, so now let's do the buttons. So we got this off of Amazon, and I think it's pretty cheap, it was like 40 bucks. Quality seems to be pretty good, so 2 joysticks. And so let's get out all of our buttons and joysticks here. So before we wire everything up, we should test and make sure encoders are actually working before we go through all the trouble. So I've just USB plugged this encoder in to Windows 10. I haven't done any setup at all. And the nice thing about this encoder is Windows 10 automatically recognizes it as a USB joystick. No driver install, nothing. So that's really cool. So if you type in joy.cpl, so if you hit the Windows key, Windows, type in joy.cpl, it is going to take you to this screen. And here we can just test our buttons. So I've hooked this up to button number 1. And when I hit the button, you will see number 1 light up right there. So I know it's working. So that test worked. And the other test I can do is I'm going to hit up on my joystick. And you notice it actually goes down. So that means I put my joystick upside down. So if I hit go down, it's going to go up. If I go left, it's going to go right. So there's probably a way to remap that somewhere, I suppose. But we're here. We might as well just do it right and fix it. So we'll do that right now. Finally, we are ready to wire buttons. And I think the easiest way to do this is to label the buttons, because we want to put the buttons on the same spot on both encoders so we're consistent. So remember, this is flipped over. So this actually is player 1, because when we flip it over, player 1, player 2. So just do that and label all your buttons. I'm just going to keep it simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's go ahead and wire up. And again, I have to say that I think these guys did a really good job, because, if I'm not mistaken, number 1 starts at the top. Probably should have looked at that before I started, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. But like I was saying, you know, I actually bought, oh, that's a little bit loose. I actually bought a high-end encoder. It was like $100, and it's a total pain in the ass. It's not easy, you know. You got to get a wiring harness and all this stuff. And here we are for, I don't know, what was like $10 or something. It came with all the buttons, so the encoder itself was probably $10. Plug and play. You know, that's how it should be. Now, this is optional, but when we were going to mount this board, there's these little headers, these little solder points that are going to take up a little vertical space. So what we're going to want to do is just add a little spacer. And I think we can get away with, and I'm going to add a spacer on this side as well. I don't think the board's going to short out. I think there's enough room there, but just to be on the safe side. So when I go here, I'm going to add a couple of these guys just to give us a little vertical clearance. Okay, that should do it. Still be perfectly fine. Okay, now let's do the other side. These are M3, so that's metric, by 25 millimeters. Okay, so we got our matrix in. Let's tighten it down on the other side. So if we flip it over, okay, and let's just screw these guys in. So now that we've got that, we can go ahead and put these two modules back on. And I think that the orientation actually matters. I'm not totally sure about that, but to be on the safe side, you look at them, one side will have some writing on it, and the other side won't. So the side that has the writing on it, in this case I have those on the top, so I'm just going to follow that same convention. And again, these bend super easy, so just be super careful with these guys. There we go. So now that we've got our LED matrix mounted, and you can see how it's secured there on the back, let's put on our cover. So we got one black piece. This is 1/4 inch thick. And then we got 3 red pieces that are an 1/8 inch thick, because they didn't have 1/4 inch red. So that's why there's 3. And then I'm going to do these finishing washers because I think it's a nice look. Okay, so here is the 7-segment display, and the way this is going to work is we're going to have one piece here, and another piece, and then one more piece. This top one will cover the screws, so it'll look a lot cleaner. So we're now going to mount this little mini OLED display on our control panel, and you can see over here the cutouts that we have. So basically it's 4 holes plus some little oblong notch there. What I recommend, and first thing actually before we get started, let's take off this protective covering because you're not going to be able to get to it once it's mounted. And what you want to do is just make a little, take these two, and these are okay, so this is 1/8 inch thick. This is going to be the top cover, and this is 1/16 thick. If you have 1/16, it's better. It'll be a little bit more low profile, but if you don't, and these need to be 1/8, that's perfectly fine too. So what you want to do is basically take this first guy, put it on the bottom, do your best to keep the holes lined up, and then take the second one, and basically we're just making a little sandwich. And again, it's really tricky to keep the holes lined up, but we'll do our best. Okay, so you can see we're all basically sandwiched here. Here's the other side. And the reason why we have this bottom piece is because there's some components sticking out at the bottom, and we want this to be flush mount. So if we didn't have this bottom piece acting as a spacer, then these bottom components are going to rub up and it's going to be skewed and not look good. Probably also not good for the board. And then lastly, take on the top piece. Top piece is just going to fit over, so we cover all the electronics and we just see the screen. Okay, now here's the tricky part. Before we mount it, we want to take our screws and do our best to thread this through. It's going to be hard because it's not the right size screw. I'll try to find the right size screw and put a link to the one to order to make this easier. So you don't have to screw, you should just be able to slide it right in. That's how it should work. But this is actually working, it's going through, so it's okay. And now the top part is where the pins are. The pins are going to go right into that little notch that we've routed out earlier. And we're just going to plop it in and line up the holes. And again, this is going to be a little tight. Okay, so that actually went in pretty surprisingly smooth. So now let's just tighten these down. So that is our install. And then we can't forget to put our cable in. Okay, so here's the cable. So what you want to do is line up the black wire, which is the ground, to the ground on the board. The ground is this pin right here. And so I want to line that up with the black pin on this guy. So now that we've got it, we should do a quick test to make sure this works. Okay, so I have another board over here, which I know works. So let's start with this. Okay, so this is going to go on our, so we're using here, let me show another board here. We're using a Arduino, and the display is actually an I2C device. And the Arduino, good thing for us, has actually two I2C ports. So we can use a Grove cable here and just plug it in. Very easy. Okay, so let's plug it in on the one that we're going to use. Okay, looks like it's working. So you see right there, it says Pixelcade.